Strange, isn't it, how people drift in and out of your life like shadows? Most slip through your fingers without leaving a trace. But then there's that one. The one who isn't just another passing face. The one who feels carved into your very existence. And when everything gets messy, when the world pushes you to let go, to walk away, that's when the real test begins. Because deep down, you know they're not just anyone. They're yours. Not in some possessive sense, not in some fairy tale fantasy, but in the raw, undeniable truth that your story doesn't make sense without them. And the moment you think about giving up, that's exactly when you'll realize why you can't. People come and go like smoke in the wind. Faces blur, names fade. Promises dissolve into nothing. Most of them are temporary, passing through your life like background noise, never really leaving a mark, never really mattering once the moment is gone. You shake their hands, you share a laugh, maybe even some tears, and then one day you look around, and they've vanished, as if they were never there at all. And for a while, you start to believe that's how it always works, that people are meant to drift, that nothing stays. But then, out of nowhere, one person doesn't follow the script. They don't drift. They don't fade. They don't just pass through. They carve themselves into your reality in ways you can't explain. It's not about perfection. It's not about fairy tales. It's not about destiny written in the clouds. No. It's something messier, heavier. It's the way the silence feels different when they're gone. It's the way your thoughts bend toward them. Even when you're trying to focus on something else. It's the way their absence feels louder than the presence of anyone else. That's when you realize. This one is different. This one is essential. And the world doesn't make it easy. It will test that bond. It will throw distance, time, doubt, and chaos right between you. It will whisper in your ear. Everyone leaves eventually. Let this one go too. But every time you try, every time you think about treating them like the rest, something inside you pulls back. Something refuses. Because letting go of them doesn't feel like moving on. It feels like ripping out a part of yourself you can't grow back. This person isn't essential because they make life easy. They're essential because without them, life feels wrong. Empty. Crooked. Like a puzzle missing the one piece that locks the whole picture together. You can try to deny it, distract yourself, pretend you're fine without them, but deep down, you know they're stitched into the fabric of your existence. And that's what separates them from the drifters. With the others, you don't think twice when they disappear. With this one, every second apart echoes. With the others, memories fade. With this one, memories haunt. With the others, you can replace what was lost. With this one, there is no replacement. You don't want one. You couldn't take one even if you tried. People will call it attachment, obsession, weakness. They'll say you're better off cutting ties, better off finding someone else, better off letting go. They'll say you're holding on too tightly. But here's the truth. This isn't about holding on too tight. This is about recognizing the rare, raw fact that not everyone in your life is meant to be temporary. Most will drift, yes, but not all. Not this one. The reason it hurts so much, the reason it scares you, is because you've been conditioned to believe everything, and everyone is replaceable. You've been taught that people are disposable, that connections are fragile, that the smart move is to never care too much. But when you meet the one who's essential, all of that collapses. You see through the lie. You feel the weight. And you understand why giving up on them isn't an option. The irony is, this person probably wasn't someone you expected. They didn't arrive with fireworks. They didn't walk in wearing a sign saying, "I'm the one." No. They slipped into your life quietly, like the others, and only over time did you notice the difference. Only after they were tangled in your story did you realize your world bent around their presence. And once that realization hits, it's too late to pretend otherwise. Some people drift. They're meant to. But one, just one, becomes essential. Not because life is merciful, not because fate is kind, but because in the middle of all the chaos, you're given proof that not everything is temporary. And that single truth changes everything. Life has a cruel sense of timing. It doesn't test you when everything is calm, when the bond feels unshakable, when you and that person stand side by side without fear. No. It waits until the cracks start to show, until doubts creep in, until the weight between you both feels unbearable. That's when it tightens the screws. That's when it turns up the heat. Because life knows the real measure of any connection isn't how you act when it's easy. It's how you fight when it's slipping away. Think about it. Anyone can smile. Anyone can stay when everything is smooth. But when the storms roll in, when words turn sharp, when silence stretches longer than it should, that's when the test begins. That's when you're forced to decide whether this person is just another passing shadow or someone worth every ounce of your strength to hold on to. And the test isn't gentle. It throws misunderstandings in your face. It twists trust into suspicion. It floods your mind with thoughts of walking away. You'll notice the timing. It's always right when you're closest to losing them. As if life is daring you to let them go, daring you to prove how much they matter. It's almost mocking. If they mean that much, show me. If they're worth it, prove it. If they're essential, then bleed for it. That's the way life works. It doesn't hand out lasting bonds for free. It makes you earn them through fire. And here's the twisted part. You'll want to quit. You'll feel tired, exhausted from the fights, drained from the weight of carrying something so fragile. You'll convince yourself it would be easier to just release them, to stop trying, to let the bond die quietly. But that's the trap. Because walking away is always easier than holding on. Surrender feels lighter than struggle. Yet, it's in that moment, when quitting seems like the sane option, that life is asking you the only question that matters. Do you mean it? The test isn't about the other person as much as it is about you. It's about whether you have the courage to fight for what matters when everything is screaming at you to stop. It's about whether you can push past the pride, the anger, the frustration, and still see the truth buried underneath. That this person is yours. That letting them go isn't just losing them. It's losing a part of yourself you can't get back. And life doesn't just test once. No, it repeats. Over and over. Until you understand. Every challenge, every argument, every moment you stand on the edge of breaking. It's all part of the same brutal lesson. Because when you come out on the other side, if you choose to hold on, the bond becomes something unshakable. Scarred, yes. Weathered, yes. But stronger than anything the world can throw against it. People often mistake trials as signs they should give up. They say, if it's this hard, maybe it isn't meant to be. But that's the lie life feeds you to see if you'll bite. The truth is the opposite. If it's being tested this hard, maybe it's because it is meant to be. Maybe it's because life only tests the bonds that matter, the ones worth breaking, the ones worth proving. The disposable ones. Those don't get tested. They just dissolve. So when life drags you to the breaking point, when you feel like you're about to lose them, remember, that's not the end. That's the exam. That's the moment life waits for, the moment that separates the ones who drift from the ones who stay. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be painless. It's meant to push you to your limits, so that when you choose to hold on, you know it's real. Life tests you most when you're close to losing them, not to destroy you, but to see if you have the courage to prove they're worth the fight. Because if they are, then every bruise, every scar, every sleepless night becomes evidence that you didn't let the one thing that mattered most slip through your fingers. Walking away feels easier than holding on. That's the first trick life plays on you, the sweet illusion of escape. When the weight grows heavy, when the nights turn long, when the silence between two people feels like a knife, walking away calls to you like a siren's song. It whispers promises of freedom, of peace, of release from the chaos. And for a moment you believe it. You believe that leaving is strength, that turning your back is clarity, that cutting ties will save you from drowning. But here's the lie. Walking away doesn't make the storm disappear. It only leaves you stranded with the wreckage inside your chest. You tell yourself it's easier, but easier doesn't mean better. Easier doesn't mean right. Walking away doesn't erase the bond. It doesn't silence the echoes of what they mean to you. It just buries them under layers of regret, waiting to claw their way back when you least expect it. Holding on, though, that's the hard part. That's the brutal, bloody fight no one prepares you for. It's the choice to face the storm head-on, to wrestle with the pain, to claw your way through the dark instead of pretending it isn't there. Holding on means swallowing pride, enduring doubt, tearing through every excuse life feeds you. It means refusing to let go, even when everything in you aches to stop. And that's why walking away feels so tempting. Because surrender is simple. All it takes is one decision, one moment of weakness, and you can convince yourself the weight is gone. But holding on, That's thousands of decisions made in silence. That's waking up every day and choosing again, even when it hurts, even when it feels pointless, even when no one applauds you for it. Holding on is endurance. And endurance doesn't give you quick relief. It breaks you down before it builds you up. The world will cheer for you if you walk away. They'll say you were brave enough to cut the cord, wise enough to move forward, strong enough to protect yourself. But deep down, you'll know you didn't leave because you were strong. You left because it was easy. You left because the struggle scared you more than the emptiness that followed. Walking away makes sense with most people, because most people are meant to drift. Their chapter ends, their story closes, and you're free to move on. But not with the one who's yours. Not with the one who's essential. With them, walking away isn't closure. It's self-destruction disguised as freedom. You may leave their side, but you'll never escape what they mean to you. You'll carry it like a phantom limb, always missing, always aching, always reminding you of what you lost because you chose easy over true. And make no mistake, holding on will break you too. It will scrape your knees, shred your patience, and make you doubt your own sanity. But that's where its value lies. Because nothing worth keeping ever comes without blood. Nothing unshakable is built in comfort. The fire of holding on burns away the illusions, the lies, the shallow reasons. What's left when you've endured the pain is something real, something indestructible. Walking away is the path of least resistance. Holding on is the war against gravity itself. One lets you collapse. The other forces you to rise. And the world is full of people who chose collapse, who wear smiles while secretly drowning in regret. Very few fight the harder battle. Very few choose to bleed instead of surrender. And that's the difference. Walking away may give you peace in the moment, but it robs you of the story you were meant to live. Holding on may tear you apart in the process, but it gives you the chance to prove that some bonds are worth every scar. Walking away feels easier, yes, but sometimes the easy road leads straight into a life of emptiness, while the harder one drags you toward something unbreakable. Connection is proven in struggle, not comfort. Anyone can stand beside you when the sun is warm, when the table is full, when laughter comes easy. Anyone can play the role of a friend, a lover, a partner, when nothing is being tested. But comfort is cheap. Comfort is the stage where masks stay on, where people smile because the world allows them to. It tells you nothing about who they really are. Struggle. That's where the truth shows its teeth. Struggle strips away the polished faces and polite words. It exposes the cracks, the fears, the raw, unfiltered humanity no one wants to admit they carry. When everything collapses, when life burns down the walls, when all that's left is ash and silence, that's when you find out who they are. More importantly, that's when you find out what you mean to them. If someone is only with you during the easy hours, they're not with you at all. They're with the idea of you, the performance of you, the version of you that the world accepts. But when the comfort dies, when your flaws surface, When your darkness spills into the open, that's when the bond is tested. Do they run? Do they flinch? Do they disappear like smoke? Or do they stay bruised and bleeding, but unwilling to let go? That's the difference. Struggle turns pretense into proof. It shows you whether the connection is paper, thin, or made of steel. And it's never a graceful revelation. It's messy, painful, humiliating. You see sides of yourself you'd rather bury, and you see sides of them that shake you to your core. And yet, if the bond holds through that chaos, if it bends but doesn't break, then you've found something that comfort could never reveal. Most people don't want this test. They want the illusion of loyalty without the cost of it. They want the feeling of connection without the burden of sacrifice. That's why so many bonds shatter the moment struggle arrives, because they were never built for fire. They were built for convenience. And convenience is fragile. But the few who stay, the few who fight through the storm, the few who choose the hard path instead of escape, they prove themselves in a way words never could. They don't have to promise they'll be there. They don't have to swear eternal loyalty. They show it in the blood, in the scars, in the way they choose you when every reason says to walk away. And here's the cruel beauty of it. You can't know who those people are until the struggle comes. You can't predict it. You can't plan it. You can't buy it. It has to be lived. You have to feel the sting of betrayal, the weight of failure, the collapse of comfort, to see who stands with you in the rubble. And once you see it, once you've lived it, you'll never look at them the same way again. Connection isn't defined by the smiles in the photographs, the laughter over drinks, or the happy moments people parade to the world. Those are the surface layers, the easy lies. The real definition is in the late nights, when you're both exhausted, when anger cuts deep, when hope feels like it's dying, and yet you choose each other anyway. That's not decoration. That's foundation. Struggle doesn't weaken a true connection. It reveals its strength. It burns away the false bonds, the shallow attachments, the fragile illusions, leaving only the ones forged in fire. And if you've ever found one that survived the flames, you already know it's worth more than every comfortable moment combined. Because comfort may make life pleasant, but struggle makes the bond unbreakable. Your story bends around their presence. You don't notice it at first. Life feels like it's moving along on its usual crooked path. Each choice, each mistake, each victory carving out the shape of who you are. Then someone enters, quietly, almost casually, and without warning the entire story begins to twist. You try to tell yourself nothing's changed, that you're still in control, that you're still the author of your own life. But the truth creeps in slowly. You can't tell your story anymore without them in it. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's the smallest moments that reveal it. The way your thoughts shift when making decisions. How their voice echoes in the back of your mind, even when they're not around. How their absence feels like a missing chapter you can't skip over. That's when you start to realize the gravity of it. They're not just part of your life. They've become part of the structure, holding it together. Every story bends to someone. Most of the time, it bends toward pain, or ambition, or survival. But when it bends toward a person, everything takes a different shape. Your choices, your sacrifices, even your mistakes, they all begin to orbit around that presence. And whether you want to admit it or not, your life is no longer just yours. It's entangled with theirs. This isn't weakness, though people will call it that. They'll say you're too attached, too dependent, too lost in someone else. But they don't understand. When a person is truly yours, when they become essential, your story bending around them isn't a loss of self. It's the deepest confirmation of who you are. Because only someone that vital has the power to shift your path so completely. And it isn't always pleasant. Sometimes the story bends in painful ways. Sometimes being tied to them means enduring storms you would have avoided alone. Sometimes it means carrying scars you never asked for, wounds you never wanted. But even through the pain, you can't rewrite them out of your story. They're in too deep. They've shaped too much. Without them, the narrative collapses into something unrecognizable. You may even try to fight it. You may try to convince yourself you can take back control, that you can straighten the path, that you can erase their influence. You'll try to leave, to pretend, to bury the weight of their presence. But no matter how far you run, the story drags you back to them. Not because you're weak, not because you're trapped, but because some stories aren't meant to be told without the characters that define them. And deep down, you know it. That's why every attempt to cut them out feels hollow. That's why every time you try to forget, something inside burns with the reminder that they're not just another person. They're a cornerstone. They are the reason the story holds any shape at all. It's easy to underestimate the power of presence. You think you're living your own life, that every choice is yours alone. But when someone essential steps into your world, their presence becomes a gravity you can't resist. It pulls at your decisions, your dreams, your fears, bending everything toward them. That force isn't an accident. It's the mark of something real. Most people never experience this. Their stories bend toward temporary figures, shallow attachments, fleeting desires. And when those people drift away, the story straightens itself out. But when it's the right one, the essential one, the story never straightens again. It can't. Their presence has already rewritten the lines, already carved themselves into the narrative. Your story doesn't bend like this for everyone. It bends for the one who was meant to matter, the one whose presence reshapes not just your choices, but your very identity. And when you finally admit that truth, when you see how much of your path has been shaped around them, you understand why letting go would feel like erasing your own existence.